Yeah, what is going on? This is Bainbridge Omega. That's right, Bainbridge Omega, and you are part of my show. So I just want you to sit back and relax, and we're just going to talk about one straight topic that just comes into my mind, that just bumps into my mind, right? And this topic is going to be pro wrestling. I mean, more importantly, Wrestlemania. That's coming out on, was it April the 2nd, April the 3rd, somewhere within that, that spectrum, right? So they're having the main event itself as Kevin Owens and the KO show featuring Stone Cold Steve Austin, right? Apparently, there are some people on the internet who are very upset of the fact that Stone Cold Steve Austin and Kevin Owens is going to be the main event as a segment, right? The segment is in the main event of WrestleMania and not the actual main event. Well, what is that main event they were talking about here? Well, in my hands is a comment that I just recently got. And I'm not going to name any names. I'm not going to name any names because it's not about me, really. But apparently, from what this guy was saying, he was born of the Phantom. I mean, it could be a guy, girl, alien. I don't know. I don't care. And I shout out to JD from New York. Off the Script is by far one of the most amazing, thought provoking pro wrestling podcasts I've ever seen out of YouTube. And he's a New York native, just like me. So we have to support, small business into big business, because we're all in this together. So thank you, JD, for this one. But I got to do his show, and I believe it aired last night. And he briefly talked about that the segment between Stone Cold Steve Austin and Kevin Owens is going to be the main event, and they're going to bump Charlotte Flair and what's it, Ronda Rousey, right? So someone took offense on that, and this is what he wrote exactly. He said, "JD needs to stop it." Okay. I mean, we all know, sure, it can end the show night one, but let's be honest here. And I'm speaking word by word to exactly what he's saying. So if it doesn't, sound coherent, well, you know why. So, okay, but let's be honest. JD, Wanda, and Charlotte is the main event, right? If it's the last match, and I won't take a segment as a main event for good reason, as in the past, everyone was arguing when JR and WWE were shilling, this is what he wrote, shilling The Undertaker and Batista being the main event despite not being the final match. So we, the IWC, we, so he speaks on the whole IWC, the Internet Wrestling Community. He speaks for you. He's your mayor, your governor, your president, your emperor, dictator, whatever you want to call it. He fights for you. He's the voice of the voiceless, people. When he speaks, it means all of us are in agreement to what he is saying right now. All of us is in agreement because it's his words, and his words is as pure as the Bible itself. That's what he's saying, as in we. But continuing on, The Undertaker and Batista being the main event despite not being the final match. So we, the IWC, have established what we know to be the true main event. The true main event. Here we go. So now, and he's going on and on about this. So now, there have been Raw and SmackDown events where a match like Primo versus Sin Cara has been legitimately the last match to air. Excuse me? Primo and Sin Cara was the last match to air on Raw. Okay, all right. So yes, if that match aired back in the day, then that match was the main event of Raw or SmackDown. See, I know he's trying to put a random match as an example. It's just not the right example, dude. No one wants to watch Primo versus Sin Cara as any event, let alone the main event. So I have no idea what you're smoking, bro. But continuing, so yes, if that match aired back in the day, then that match was the main event of Raw or SmackDown. Not the segment between, say, John Cena and CM Punk. You can't have a segment be a main event. We're going to get to that in a second. It could close the show, but we can't change history. No record book show any segment as a main event or an official match. What the okay. Unless Stone Cold wrestles, no. It's not a main event, and it needs to be said because JD himself would have to have been one back in the day to argue against WWE's logic of a main event is a main event, no matter where it is on the card, when they kept not having Royal Rumble winner matches go last. Now, he's still going. Now we have 2 nights and both Royal Rumble winners can main event a different night. Now there's a problem all of a sudden. So by the same logic, you can't start having segments count as main events. If The Rock stands face to face with Roman after his match, that's a closing segment, not the last match. Let's not try to redefine what a main event is. A segment cannot be a main event under any circumstances. Was the Nexus the main event of Raw the night they tore up the ring, etc.? No. Whatever match that aired prior was. So this is what he's saying. I'm trying to digest this in a way that's very proper and, clean to all of this. First off, no one gives a shit about, oh God, you know what, now YouTube's going to be on me. No one gives a crap about Charlotte versus Ronda Rousey. And whoever does care about that match probably has a poster of either Charlotte or Ronda Rousey on their wall, So that's all I'm going to say about that. Stone Cold Steve Austin is always going to be the main event in my heart and in everyone else's hearts when they went through the Attitude Era, all right, with Steve Austin and The Rock, whatever. If Austin and The Rock closes WrestleMania, I don't care. It is the main event. And let's be very honest with you here, okay? This year's WrestleMania is shit, all right? It's garbage. It's pure garbage. Aside from AJ Styles versus Edge, which is going to be the Macho Man Randy Savage / Ricky the Dragon Steamboat match of WrestleMania. You want to talk about main events. You want to talk about what's considered to be a main event and a segment. All right, I'll give you a great example. WrestleMania 3, Pontiac Silverdome. Macho Man Randy Savage versus Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. That was the wrestling main event. It had story. Georgia the Animal Steel was there. It had action. People were glued to the edge of their seat. That was the match, the athleticism, the storytelling between both of those men. That is the wrestling main event of WrestleMania. Hogan versus Andre the Giant, that was a segment. All right? It was not the main event. Maybe at the time, because of the WWE, then WWF marketing machine has dubbed it so, what is it? The unstoppable force versus the immovable object. It sold tickets. It sold money. I mean, it sold T-shirts. It was great. The spectacle of it all was great. All right? But that was from a segment perspective. All right? It was not a main event clash of titans type of style of wrestling that you will come to expect from a show like WrestleMania. All right? It was a moment. It was a WrestleMania moment. I mean, if you really think about it, That's my analysis of what considers to be a segment in the main event. And if that is the case, then Stone Cold Steve Austin and Kevin Owens being the last segment of the show in WrestleMania, to me, is the main event. Because how dare you sit here and tell me that Charlotte Flair is a bigger star than Stone Cold Steve Austin? You're going to sit here and tell me that Ronda Rousey is a bigger star than Stone Cold Steve Austin? Don't do that to yourself, kid. Don't do that to yourself. No one cares. No one absolutely cares. And let's be honest with ourselves here. Seeing how it is truly the most abysmal WrestleMania card in history, you might as well put that last, especially since it's going to be night one. You want the fans leaving AT&T Stadium with a smile on their face, knowing that they got to see the Rattlesnake, Stone Cold Steve Austin, give a stunner one more time, swiggle some beer one more time, all right? Raise hell one more time, all that stuff, right? Does anyone really give a rat's ass about Charlotte and Ronda Rousey being the main event? Is people on the edge of the seat when those two ladies go at it? And also, I want to add this. If you will allow the WWE to continuously add the Women's Championship match every year in WrestleMania as night one of the event, certain people in here are going to say that it is sexist. It may not seem that way, but if you do it in a repetition, there are going to be idiots out there complaining, why isn't the Women's Championship on night 2 of WrestleMania? Why is it only made for the men on a Sunday night? Sunday night is the biggest night of the year. You should have the women be in the main event on that Sunday. And they will complain. They will complain and they will talk about it. And the cycle continues, and it's just getting downright sad and depressing. It is really getting downright down and depressing. So, I understand your logic, though, right? Never in the history of professional wrestling that an actual segment, like a talk show segment or whatever the case may be, right, ever gone on last on a wrestling show. Right? On a Raw or a SmackDown, the segment is the last thing that happens. That's a segment. But it's not the main event. Right? In a pro wrestling sense. Pro wrestling. WWE is not a pro wrestling show. WWE is a sports entertainment show. The same show that has Johnny Knoxville fighting Sami Zayn instead of a Ricochet or an Ali or an Xavier Woods or any actual wrestler who bled in this company for years. And you're going to have a guy like Johnny Knoxville be on the card of WrestleMania, but not you. You're going to have a guy like Logan Paul be on the card, but, and then not a Ricochet or whatever. I'm glad that Finn Balor is probably going to get himself a title. Man, see, that's the thing. And I could be rambling on and on about this, but what the hell happened with WrestleMania, right? The sheer fact that people are more excited of a potential Cody Rhodes appearance at WrestleMania compared to actual matches in WrestleMania is just absurd. It's sad. It's very, very sad. And I do not speak for the IWC. So I'm not going to say we, all right? I'm not going to say we. But I would assume that there are people there. There are people out there on YouTube that will probably agree with me when I say that you, sir, are completely wrong in that aspect. No one gives a crap about Charlotte Flair or Ronda Rousey, and no one really is bothered enough to watch the WWE other than the fact that it's the spectacle. It's a spectacle. And it's something that we grew up watching since we were little kids, so it's going to be embedded in our brains to watch WrestleMania one way or another. And the curiosity factor is also in effect because is it going to be good or is it going to be a complete train wreck? So we'll decide. If you like what I was saying, give a shout out, like this channel. The more you like or subscribe, the more I'm going to keep on doing videos like this. Give me feedback on how I can improve so I can make it better for you guys. You know, it's not easy having to be in front of a camera and having your life exposed for millions of people, but that's for another day. Don't want to deal with that. The fact of the matter is, if you like or subscribe, you know, just give a shout out. Give a comment. Give me your feedback. I want to hear your feedback. All right. So, this is Bainbridge Omega. And, yeah. See ya.